Well, thanks everybody for coming. Just so you know, this is being recorded, and so what we share here will be made available on YouTube. But we're going to keep it fairly light, and we're going to dive into story today. Or well, it's been story since last month as well, but we're going to kind of shift things a bit. But before we get started, I think just general introductions, a little bit of a check-in to see how we're arriving in this space. And um, let me just come up with a good check in question. Um, I guess over the last month, what's been a highlight, and how are you bringing that in today? So, like for instance, I guess maybe I'll start. And we'll start just introductions with our name as well, just so everybody gets familiar with who we are. So, I'm Alex, otherwise known as Panda. And yeah, for me, the last month has been um, the highlight has been this new job opportunity, which I didn't think would be the thing I go for, but here I am working on self improvement. I'm learning a lot of self awareness. It's not easy, but it is. I think it'll pay off in the long run. So I think that's been a good highlight for me. Just having greater self awareness and feeling like I am on the edge of transformation. That shedding of the snake skin from the year before is I'm feeling a bit raw and vulnerable. Tara calls it the naked turtle, so I can definitely resonate with that. And yeah, and how I'm landing today, feeling I guess refreshed or rejuvenated. It's been the last couple of weeks have been kind of hard, but I feel like I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So feeling good. Just jumped right in here after work and ready to go. See where things end up. So yeah, with all that, I'm in. And then I guess maybe I should call some people out to speak if unless somebody wants to volunteer to open up.
Well, in
So
my
call up.
little Zoom boxes, I'm the next in line, so I'll go.
Okay.
And then you can call the next person out. Or maybe we can pass the baton and I can pick on somebody.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Pass the baton. That's a good one.
Oh, okay. So I am in Hawaii, which is was not necessarily initially in my plans. I just felt like it was going to happen. But plans changed and it still happened. And I'm feeling uh really settled and grounded in this experience where usually I'd be like hopping around to different locations. So it's really nice to feel like I have a home base here and get to sort of merge more deeply with the true Kanaka, the true community that's here. I've been working very hard for this and I didn't realize that that's what I've been working for. So it feels nice to be anchored in this space. But I also feel excited and eager to go home. So instead of like, I haven't even touched a beach. Haven't even seen a beach other than the plane when I was coming in. I've been hanging out doing regular computer work here. And then I booked my flight yesterday to come back home to go and do more events and stuff like that. But to see how saying no to the invitations of uh, the parties and the social aspect that I've been working towards for years turned into getting to hang out with the actual community and be a part of a fundraiser. That's exactly what my aim is. So it just sort of fell into my lap as opposed to me having to go and grasp for it, which is what I was doing before. So it feels really good to be doing that. So I feel settled, but I also feel excited to move to the next adventure, and hopefully it will be just as supportive and grounding as this experience has been. And with that, I'm in. Oh, and my name is Tara Lee for anybody who does not know.
Thank you, Tara
Okay.
Lee. And where are you passing the baton?
So I just I'm forgive me if I say your name wrong. Irina. I just did this.
Yeah, yes, you did pronounce it right. It is Irina. Um, yeah, hi. So this past month, I've been immersing myself in the community here in Belleville and kind of reconnecting with the people and getting to know new people and kind of setting some roots here. And it's been really great. I've met some really nice people, some really great, generous, lovely people, and uh, going to some events and things and joining some groups and going to be doing a workshop on June 23rd at the Kavana restaurant, which is owned by a lovely Ukrainian woman. Um, so that's I'm excited about that. Um, and got my getting my new website up, which has been taking longer, but it should be up tomorrow. Rebranding myself, so I'm excited about that. Yeah, so kind of going from Mexico, where we were doing a lot in Mexico with our workshops and community stuff. It's different here, it's just everybody's spread out more, and it's not like that tight community in San Pancho, which was so easy to just go to different things. Here it's harder to get into different groups. You have to make more of an effort. I think it's more of an effort. But it's good. So it's all good. And I'm excited about where that's all going. So I'm in. Okay.
Nice.
Wendy.
And I just realized this too. Maybe share also where you're from because we're coming from different places. I'm realizing.
Yeah, so I'm in Belleville, Ontario, which is quite just like 2, 3 hours south of Ottawa, so on the lake. And we spent our winter in Mexico, but we're back here. Okay.
Welcome back. So,
All right, thank you, Wendy.
yeah, the past month or so, been dealing with some wins with my shoulder injury. So I feel like I'm finally getting to the root cause, and that feels good. Went back to the gym, and that felt good. And I think the best thing that's happened to me lately is that I think I found a buyer for my printing business. So I'll finally be able to exit that and start working on the other stuff full time.
Yay.
So I'm very excited about that. And so, Hugh, it is your turn.
Can you
Gotta
hear me?
unmute you. There you go.
I'm okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm up here in the Madawaska River, which is north of Belleville, east of Ottawa. My month, well, I did some unusual stuff this month. It's kind of like I'm making this my yes year. So any ideas that come into my head, whether I want to do it or not, I just say, okay, all right, okay, okay. So I ended up at a psychic fair, promoting my book. And I've agreed to do a few more in the area. And I haven't done that in 40 years. So that was a humbling experience, but it was fun. I actually got to talk to all the presenters. I became more friends with the presenters than I did with the guests who were coming in for the psychics. But it was all fun. And then this week, while I'm taking a break from the book, I need a break and I'm focusing on repairs at the cottage and fixing electrical, fixing plumbing and painting and building this and building that and organizing an event that's going to happen here in July. So yeah, I'm in nature and enjoying it immensely with the sunshine And the black flies and mosquitoes have just began, but they're being gentle with me so far, so that's good. That's pretty much where I am at. Am I supposed to pick somebody now? How about Mel? Are you there, Melissa?
Yes, I am. Thank you. So I'm Melissa. I live in Ottawa with Alex and Wendy. So this last month, I don't know. I feel like I'm always taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or sometimes 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I don't know. Always feel like I have a plan and then I fall back. But something good that's occurred this month. I guess I've had 2 really great breakthroughs with my mom, some really great conversations, and feel like we're in a really good place. So I'm happy with that. And always, and as of with regards to right now, well, always anxious, a little talking to people. So I'm trying my best. And that's it. Happy to be here, coming backwards. Like I'm walking in backwards, but still happy to be here.
Awesome.
Next
Thank you.
person. I'll pick Justin.
All right, you're doing great, Mel. Justin here, live in Ottawa, and what has been a highlight for my month is going to piggyback off of Alex's because it's been really awesome getting to work with him again. The nature, it's interesting because like even though we're from the same city, we met here in this city, and it was always in a work environment. So to no longer be working in animation together, it's been a real treat to be able to kind of show him the ropes with sales and watch him as he moves through the different things. So it's also kind of challenged me to step even more into a role of like kind of doing the showing of the ropes, and that's awesome because like I really want to grow as a leader in this industry as well. So it's really been helping me do that. So I guess I'm joining with a sense of excitement and pride to be working with a good friend again and seeing how this will have my friend grow and expand. So there's like a sense of adventure there as well. With that, I'm in. Oh, and I gotta pass it on to, I guess, Katrina has left. Is there anyone else? Yeah, no.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Katrina. I'm Justin's wife. I live in Ottawa, Ontario. Let's see. Well, this month, quite recently, actually, my husband retired me. So I'm now a full-time life engineer is the term I prefer because it's a lot more accurate as to housewife. There's like a negative stigma to that, but life engineer, really building systems and structures. So I'm really leaning into that, and I'm leaning more into my femininity, learning to take on more responsibility, and also listening to my body and knowing and respecting when I need to slow down. It's not a race. It's not about being productive. That's not where my value is. So letting go of a lot of old programs and mindsets that actually really held me back. And I've been doing a lot of trauma work, so that's been challenging, but also really cool. So I've had a lot of recent moments where we'll share a laugh and I'm laughing hysterically, and then it turns into a cry. And it just comes out, and letting go of the judgment. That's been a pattern of mine, is I'll judge myself and then I judge myself for judging myself. So it's just this ridiculous cycle. So there's a lot of improvement there, and it's been really cool, really, really cool. Yeah, and so with that, that lends itself to me being able to support others as well, even if all it is just to listen and relate. So with that, I am in.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for all the lovely shares, kind of getting a sense of where everybody's at. And yeah, I guess we'll move into the theme of today. So what I'm looking at today is there's the stories that we've lived, and what I want to explore is our ability to reframe our stories. Because I know that, like for myself, while I'm in the moment, it's hard to see, the silver lining in it, because it just feels doom and gloom, maybe, or something seemed really challenging or, very heavy. But then, hindsight, looking back, I'm able to, because of the detachment, I'm able to reframe it and see these experiences as something meaningful or powerful and supporting my own personal growth. And so I guess the first thing I want us to explore is, a story from our life that maybe feels like unresolved, incomplete, maybe, there was a challenge there, and we don't have to go into the reframe right now. I just want to maybe explore like a challenging point in our life that we can recall, and it doesn't have to, we don't have to get too personal or into the details, but maybe like, how it impacted us, and um, how it sat with us maybe at the time. And then once we've all had a chance to share that short story, then we can explore ways that we reframe, and then use this as a tool to perhaps maybe reframe things in our current life, or as things come up, or just seeing that it is possible to change the story when we go back and perhaps edit our stories. So I'll give everybody an example of what I mean. So in my life back in I would say 2013 to 2014, I was going through a series of financial troubles. I got laid off in like around 2012, and then I was on EI for a bit, and I was hoping to get back into film, video games. That's why I had moved to Ottawa. And then, I was only seeming able to get minimum wage jobs, and wasn't as fulfilling, and it just felt like I was struggling. I even ended up back working at McDonald's for a bit, and I was almost on track to become manager again. But I guess the universe had other plans for me. But I had racked up some credit debt, and anyways, I had to ultimately declare bankruptcy. And so that was like a very big turning point in my life. And at that time, I was just like, oh my God, like, what did I do to deserve all this? Like kind of self-pity and feeling cursed. And, it all happened at a time where it was like I was reaching a peak. It felt like, I'm like, yeah, I moved to Ottawa. I have this salary job, and I'm on top of the world. I'm living the dream, right? Working on video games, the stuff that I went to school for, 3D computer graphics, and then it all just kind of like blew up in my face, and I felt like I couldn't pick myself up. But yeah, and so that led me to down a path of like having to restructure myself and start budgeting better and taking, I guess, maybe more ownership and responsibility for my banking and finances. And I remember being afraid to even look at my bank account because I was like, well, I know there's nothing there, so why should I look at it? And yeah, so I guess without reframing that, that was an experience I had that was really, really shifted and really challenged me. And um, yeah, but I know we'll get to the reframe after, but that's the kind of stories that maybe we can share, something that you feel comfortable with, and we'll try to keep it within a couple minutes, or like within like 5 minutes or so. I'm not going to be like a hard timer on it, but how many of us is there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, that should be all right. Also, I just realized I'm a dodo head, and I told Mel and Hussam they could come over today to check out some easels. So, geez, and oh man,
They're here.
they're here. That was the doorbell. So, what we can do is let's just take like 5 minutes.
Well, Usam's leaving now.
Oh, is he?
He didn't stay. He said he's going to message you and he'll come back another day.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Melissa. Okay. Jeez. So,
Teamwork makes the
teamwork.
dream work.
Oh man, I feel so bad. All right, well, what's done is done. Okay, so maybe yeah, just take a minute or so to think about that story that was a challenge for you, that maybe feels like it's unfinished, or something along those lines. And and then yeah, the first one who feels called to share, and no rush here. And then we'll once everyone's had a chance to share that story, then we're going to try to come back and see if we can reframe those stories.
I can share.
Okay.
So going back to the um, early retirement, I recently quit my job at the health food store where I had been working for the last 7 years. And on my last day, the store was pretty quiet. And I was really kind of hoping I was going to see a lot of my regular customers and, you know, give them a so long hug or that kind of thing. And I saw a few, which was nice. And but the staff I was working with, one was a really new person who we had a really nice rapport, but of course there just wasn't a lot of time to build a bond. And the other one was a teenager who has been challenging to work alongside. And I could feel throughout the day that I was having some emotions come up, feeling the bittersweetness of, well, this is my last day. And there's a part of me that felt a little sad. And there was a part of me that was like, fuck yeah, I'm done. I'm out of this place, Yeah, and then when I came home, oh yeah, well, at the end of the day, the newer coworker, gave me a hug and was wishing me well. The other one didn't say anything. But my old boss didn't say anything. Nobody else reached out, nothing like that. And I was kind of like feeling a little bit bummed about it, you know. And then I'll save the reframe for part two. The
Great.
end.
Thank you. Thanks, Katrina.
Well, I'm going to go next because my story is very similar to Katrina's, except I retired from teaching at Sheridan College during the pandemic, and because and I've been there for 15 years teaching full time, and but and you know, whenever anybody else retired, there'd be like this big party and everything, all the faculty get together and the department and everything. But I retired during the pandemic. So they did this really lame kind of Zoom thing, and almost nobody showed up. And it was really bittersweet because I was very close to all these people. So it was the same thing, you know, it was like I was feeling emotional, but I had nobody to hug, or, you know, there wasn't even any face to face. It was all like I just sort of put in my application, it got approved, and then it just kind of like just just went nowhere. I just next, you know, I just wasn't working anymore. You know, it was very sort of bittersweet, like you said, Katrina, and um, felt like there wasn't a real kind of celebration or closure or anything. You know, it just one day I was working and the next I wasn't. Um, The other thing about that was that I made that decision very spontaneously. I had very little time to think about it because we had to put in our application by June if we were going to retire. And so it was a specific date. And I had just decided, like in May, that I wanted to retire. And I had to kind of really do the numbers and everything really, really quickly because I wasn't going to another job or anything. I was retiring, and I had to really rethink everything. And I went for a walk in the forest where I was living, and um, and I went to talk to this tree. Like, you guys will get this because you're the only people I could tell this story to. But Hugh knows about this. So I had this very odd looking tree in the forest they used to go to and talk to, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I went up to this tree and I said, and I hugged it and I said, I don't know what to do. Should I retire? I mean, it was a very safe job and everything. And then I got this voice in my head said, well, and I looked at it and I said, you're a very unusual looking tree. And it said to me, and you're very unusual too, and you should be doing unusual things in your life, you know? And then I stepped away from the tree and I looked behind the tree, and I don't know why I never noticed it before. There was a whole field of trilliums behind it, like an abundance of trilliums behind it. And I was like, okay, that's it. That's my sign. And I went back and I called my associate dean and I said, I'm retiring. And it was on this sort of, it wasn't like everybody else who retires does all the numbers and does all the, you know, and prepares for it and makes sure that, you know, they got everything else, you know, settled and set up. You know, it was just a spontaneous decision. And I don't regret it, but I could sure use the money right now. It was a good salary. But anyways, they're all giving everybody packages now, because I'm talking to my friends who are there, and they're all getting packages. They're letting people go left and right. So it probably was a good decision for me, you know. Anyways, that's my story. And there is a reframing of it that I will get to.
Awesome. Thank you for that. It's a good story. Who's next? Tara Lee, I'm looking at you.
Okay, bye. Um, yeah, actually, I'd like to just sort of start off by saying I'm having a hard time thinking of it, or I was, of a story that felt like unfinished business. So I'm curious to spend more time in that thought process, because it just sort of feels like I love reframing, and the natural process is always taking place. So it's a version of completion, but so I felt it helpful to hear the other stories to give me like something that I feel like there's a piece that might still come from this one. And I had a friend who was a space holder, beautiful, powerful space holder. And when I first left my old life and was starting onto this journey, it was very divine how we crossed paths and we were connected with each other. And we like instantly connected. And I was like, oh, I wasn't used to that kind of synchronicity and like speaking to somebody on my frequency. I was very happy to connect with her and we could help each other. It wasn't like, you know, one-sided relationship. And so we were growing this beautiful friendship and the potential of us working together. And she was like super in need of someone to help her. And we had built this trust and it was growing. And I could see so much potential for it and always left that door open. But for some reason, it just never happened, even though she had made an offer and was like, I think that I'd like you to come and help me hold space and different ceremonies and things like that. And I was like, you know, finding absolutely this is how I can do that, or we don't even have to work together. Let's just have tea, that kind of a open-ended, however this best aligns. But it just, it always seemed one-sided, like she wouldn't meet me at the invitation. And so I thought that that was a kind of a strange thing to not have a no, I don't want to be your friend or no, I don't want to collaborate. It was just sort of left and then we got busy from there. But I think I know what the reframe is for it. So hopefully that was a good enough question or story.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong stories. There's just stories, and how we tell them is important. And I guess I also want to mention too, like if you already have like something that you feel like you've reframed, like feel free to use that story. We don't necessarily have to find something that is like completely unresolved. Just something that we noticed, you know, it was a challenge. There was some kind of struggle involved, and maybe you've already reframed it, which is totally fine. And then we'll just save that reframe for the second part.
I could chime in. I really feel like this injury that I got, I think most of you know I had this nerve damage in my right arm. I feel like it was really a sign from God, from source, that I needed to slow down. And so even though it's been painful and, you know, really difficult, haven't been able to work, all kinds of stuff, I feel like it was good for my soul to slow down and to like understand that my body wasn't invincible. I guess. I don't know. But I have reframed it and I feel like it's the pause that was necessary. And I'm taking better care of myself. So that's how I'm reframing it. So, but yeah, I don't know if we could reframe it again. That'd be great.
Sure, that works. Yeah, we can just dive maybe a little deeper into the reframe and how you move forward from that reframe. Yeah. Justin, you got anything?
I'm still trying to like cook it up, so I'm I'm like, what is not that there isn't something. I'm just like, again, like coming in off the day as well. Like, can I work on it? So I'm just kind of sifting through some ideas here.
Cool. Also, like maybe I have some advice. Maybe don't overthink it. If it just pops in your head, maybe that's the thing that needs to be shared. Melissa? No?
I'm gonna give it a try.
All right.
I don't know how we actually the cycles. Can you hear me? No?
Well, it seems like the signal's dropping a bit.
Sounds choppy, Hugh.
Try turning your video off to just to share.
My video, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear
you
you.
me?
Perfect.
I don't know that the cycles ever end, actually. look at my life. I mean, we certainly make progress with them, but at some level they keep coming back like this. They're very secular. And I think some of my challenges have been persistent over my life. And I have overcome them many, many, many times, but then I experienced them coming around at a different level. And so, yeah, and I guess I could say that I'm in one right now. Being a writer and producing books is a cycle that I've given up. That I thought I had mastered, didn't need to do that anymore, and then I find myself back in doing it again 5 or 6 years later. And well, that's all I need to say about that for now, anyhow.
Perfect.
All right, I'm good. I'm good. So I guess I was overthinking it a little bit because it's something that like I've shared with you specifically before, Alex, but I think it still works for this where there was a massive reframe needed. And it's taken place in different forms, especially when it comes to the sales environment of this job. There was one day in particular where um, and I'll do part one for this part, and then the part two on how I reframed the story I was telling myself and what that led to for the second part. So there was a day, and when I started doing this job, it was wintertime and like some of the coldest weeks. So it was a very cold and wet week. And I had had about 5 or 6 doors that I had walked up to that like it is very interesting that when you are working on, okay, how am I going to connect with this person? So I'm looking for like things in their driveway, their yard, their home, and their windows, things that I can kind of like address and try and start a conversation on. And so I'd formulate, and then I'd be like, especially if I was excited, I'm like, oh, I could totally like, build this up. Like they had a really cool thing in their window, or I really liked, the trim of their home or whatever. Um, and then I'd get to the door, and then they would just be like, nope, and then close the door before I even have a chance to say anything. And the first few, I was like, oh, okay. And then by the fifth one, all of a sudden it was like, oh, like the first few like didn't phase me, or so I thought. By the fifth one, it was like, oh, and then the sixth one, oh, and then the like seventh or eighth one, um, the guy was just like, no, 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 I'm good, I'm good. And I was, I had let it get to me, and I felt so defeated. Like, and I was telling myself the story that people aren't giving me a chance. And I had like, I dropped my shoulders, and like, like my feet were cold. I was cold. Um, I had my backpack, so like my back was sore and everything. And I was just like, come on, man, I'm trying out here. And the moment I did that, the guy completely changed uh expression, and he was livid. He was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was fucking nice to you. You can get the hell off my property, and just like chased me off. And I was like, whoa. And the reaction to that like really shook me, and I understood that it was like, okay, like, I mean, I shouldn't have gone into that expression myself, but it was really interesting to see the attack on perceived weakness, and which was the exact opposite of what I was looking for, which was some empathy. At least just let me say my thing, man, then you can send me off. So I realized I was spending a lot of mental energy coming up with how I was going to formulate the conversation. And I wasn't used to just like coming up with it on the spot yet. It was taking a lot of mental energy. And I was feeling rejected in not even being able to give the chance of me showing that, right? You can say no after, but that's not how it goes. and I was shook. I was shook, and I couldn't regulate myself. I was trying to breathe. I was trying to calm myself down, and I ended up calling Katrina to kind of help give me a reframe on that, so that I could kind of take some further responsibility. So I'll end the story there.
Perfect. Thank you. It's a good story. I know the turnaround will be great. And I guess all that's left is Mel. But I will say this, look, you don't have to share a story if you're not feeling like, and maybe you just need to witness. So you let me know if you want to share a story or not. It's a no?
No, thank you.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, on to the reframe. So it seems like most of us already have kind of a reframe. We all kind of understand that process. So I guess I'll kick off. The reframe for me was, going through, bankruptcy and really just hitting that rock bottom and like low self-esteem and just feeling like I'm not, you know, good enough. I did something wrong. I missed something. But like looking back at it, I realized how much I persevered. Like I didn't, as much as like in my head, I was telling myself I was giving up. I actually didn't give up. I kept going. I kept trying to make things work, and I did what I had to do. I had to downsize. I got rid of things and reduce my expenses to the best of my ability, um, and I really just took full ownership. Like I I really had a keener eye on where I was spending my money, whereas before when I was making good money, I didn't think too much about it. And so that led to some, not so good spending habits and yeah, so I'm seeing this as an opportunity to realize like the state I was in, just so like I was probably around 330 to 350 pounds like at that time. And I was actually kind of looking pale when I look back at some of the photos. And so as much as I was comfortable, I was like kind of extra comfortable. And I think I needed that wake up call. I needed like to be shooken up to get me to change things about the way I was going about, uh, earning a living and the way I was treating my body and my finances. I was just kind of doing it all willy nilly. And anyways, going through that, being laid off and then eventually being led to bankruptcy, like during that time, I actually used that time to learn about nutrition and health and got in shape. And so in another aspect, it gave me that opportunity to have a full-time job of going to the gym. I was going like 5 days a week and I just focused on that for that time and just seeing how much I bounced back. Because I remember at a certain point I had gotten rid of almost all my possessions and moving back in with Dan and in the basement, I just had a few boxes and like a big suitcase and a few bags. And I looked at that stuff just sitting there in a pile and I thought, wow, that's it. That's all of me. And and then I think of like that was almost 10 years ago and how much I've accumulated back since then. I'm like, wow, I really did bounce back and I had no idea it would lead me down the route of, paint night and getting back into traditional painting and then eventually animation. And here I am with sales. So it's really, life is unpredictable. And the more I think I've got it figured out or that I'm on a certain path, the more the universe just kind of, you know, makes me change lanes and or cuts off certain exits. And anyways, I guess so my big takeaway from that is that that opportunity really tested my ability to endure and to pick myself up back even from the bottom. And that I also exercised a lot of humility in that point too, being like, yeah, I'm not ashamed to work back at McDonald's or do what I need to do to survive. And so in the end, I guess, yeah, I became a little more resilient. I learned more about finances and how to better manage my time, my health, and all that. And I'm still learning and growing from that. So, but that was it was a big wake up call for me. And I feel like I passed the test if that was a test. So there's my reframe. It's not as poetic, but it is what it is. And who would like to volunteer their reframe? Katrina?
Yeah, I'll go. All right, I gotta place myself back into the story. Right. So I'm coming home at the end of my last day, and I'm riding the bus, and I'm like, why was I expecting any different? There's a reason I've been wanting to leave this place for quite a while. I felt like I was rocking it. Like I rock customer service. Like customers appreciate me. But the staff, although like I had a few friends over the years, and the more I whittled down my availability, I was only interacting and working with those two people every weekend. At one point we were four, but that person had left, who was a good friend of mine. And the manager and the owner, like the business practices were not, from my view, of the highest integrity. And there was a lot to be desired. And so it was really it was grating on me over time. And so there was this point of I had to really kind of check myself and get real with myself and remind myself that really these are not the kinds of people who would reach out and say thank you for your service, sorry to see you go, what are your plans, or anything like that. So it's not actually a surprise. I was looking at how I was chasing a feeling. I really was hoping to be, like Irina was saying, like celebrated or, you know, encouraged, like, ah, good for you, on to your next chapter. But the reality is, like crabs in a bucket, a lot of people have a hard time celebrating other people because they're projecting that that means that they're not where you are. And so there's like this competition. It's potentially unconscious, but they're essentially saying like screw you for where you're moving on, because that's not my story. And I was just really kind of looking at it for the facts. Like take the emotion out of it. What am I actually looking at? And when I was doing that, I was like, what I'm moving on to is is I'm moving towards my purpose and my vision. Who really cares if, the 2, 3 people who I really cared about at the store, staff wise, were to be like hurrah or whatever. At the end of the day, like on my deathbed, I'm not going to have regrets about that. You know what I mean? It's what's most important here was what I was moving towards. not reflecting on what I was leaving, because that was already done. So I was actually kind of really noticing how I was, the more I dwelled on it, the more I was taking myself out of the present moment, and I was staying in the past, and I was just feeding myself from all this energy off of the memories and the wishful thinking and all of that. And it did me no good. It didn't matter. It didn't actually sway anything. Whereas everything I'm working towards and building with my husband, there's purpose within it. Like, we feel so strongly like everything we're doing is what's best for all. What I was doing was actually really holding me back, so it was really coming back to the brass tacks of it. That kept me really stable. It really reminded me of, yeah, you know if I choose to dwell on it, I'm choosing to go into emotionality and not actually coming from a grounded place. And so that really helped me shift everything.
Yeah, good reframe. Thank you for sharing that, Katrina.
I'd love to run off of that because I really resonated with your story and how I think my reframe kind of plays in with that. As I was looking back um, on the experience of this would-be friend, would-be, somebody who had as a client, and she had me as a client. We both bought into each other's services and did energy exchange together. She's, very established, very wealthy, and I was kind of like new into bringing my craft into the world. She really could have helped me. And I was really excited to be making friends and to be able to merge into this world. And so it hurt my feelings that this person who had so much potential to we clicked so well, but also so many resources. There was no real damage that I could see that I could cause her, that she wouldn't want to help. And so when I reflected back, I was like, oh, I definitely would have had been questioning my self-worth at some point in time, because why wouldn't she want to help? And the only thing I could see is how it could grow her client base and her business, and to bring new medicine that the rest of the community was already very excited about. But then the gift in me reanalyzing my self-worth and recognizing um, my value system, much like what you were saying, Katrina, did not match theirs. This beautiful group of people doing beautiful things, but there was a shallowness to it. I'm not bringing that authentic presence that I so need in my world. And that's where the separation naturally, it's not personal, it's vibrational. And so to see where my value system superseded my lack of financial security and my lack of, humans that I only had a few humans that I could bring, whereas she had a whole community that I could help each one of them by showing up. I wasn't willing to trade my value system to buy into their system, essentially. And so I still hold space for it to kind of come around, for the beautiful collaboration and community and friendship that we did have, and me and the other ladies in the group, to have its time again in a more authentic way, if it's meant to. But I use that as such a beautiful teaching tool to be able to tell with other humans of who's meeting me at that frequency, and to not take it personally, that they're having a fear. Maybe she was afraid that some of the friendship information would get out to the other ladies, or maybe she was afraid that I would steal her customer base, or whatever that is. But she never brought me that truth. So we weren't meeting at a true, intimate, relational experience that I was hoping to cultivate. And I think with that, I think that's my reframe.
Yeah, sounds like a reframe to me. Good job.
Okay, I'll go next. So after I left teaching, I had about a year to reflect on that decision because we were in the pandemic and there was nothing to do. Um, and so I had a lot of time to think about it. And I got into my art. I think that was the year that I painted a lot. But I didn't have anything else to step into. And so I kind of, the story that I had told myself was that, well, that was kind of irresponsible of you not to have another backup thing to step into. Or I had my visual work, I had my, from my sabbatical, but that wasn't developed at all or anything. So I just, and I have a very spontaneous nature. So there was this story, well, you're very spontaneous, and sometimes you make decisions and choices that are, could be seen as irresponsible and not think things through and, so on. And I felt that that's what I had done, even though I know I'm an extremely responsible person. And yet I had this story in my head like, well, that was irresponsible of you not to have thought it through. But what I think that being a very creative person, and spontaneous, I think I'm more okay with the unknown than a lot of people are, and stepping into the unknown and stepping out of my comfort zone, which I've done a lot. And I think that um, when I get inspired to do something, I think I just do it. And then and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I think it's a good quality to have, this tolerance of ambiguity and tolerance of the unknown, and to be able to step out of your comfort zone and try something new and try new experiences, even if you don't know where it's going to go, and just trust. So in the end, I think I've had more of an interesting life in the last few years than I would have if I had stayed in teaching. I don't know yet where it's going. I'm trying, and again, like, I'm hoping that, the money comes with it. Um, but yeah, I think it is who I am. I am spontaneous. I do. I think I was inspired. I have to trust that I was inspired to do this, to move into something new and to do God's work. Not that teaching wasn't God's work, but to explore and try new things, because that's how we grow. We grow as artists. We have to try new things always, and it's how we grow. Is stepping out of our comfort zone and doing something new. So I'm still exploring, but I'm okay with stepping into the unknown. And so um, I think that's how I'm reframing that decision that I made.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that. And I guess, yeah, as an artist myself, I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess I am always trying to explore new ways of doing things and seeing what happens. So, yeah.
I wanted to piggyback onto that, and then I've lost my train of thought. The reframe, yeah. I wanted to invite people to help me reframe on an energetic level what you think this injury, that's how I feel, had struck me down for a year. What comes to you if you had to think about it on an energetic or emotional, spiritual level?
Well, I'll share on, it's your right arm, right? So the way I see it is like the right side is like kind of the masculine or the external expression. Left side is the internal, feminine introspection. So your arm being an extension of, like, your arm is like it's connected to your heart, right? And then it leads out to the hand, and the hands are what we create with. So your arm being like the road to bring what you love and what you care about into this world. And you had gotten to a point where, at least subconsciously, you were aware of the fact that this business, although it helped you get to where you are, was now almost a preoccupation from what you were trying to do and trying to create. And so, had you, and this is my personal spin on it, is that knowing you a little bit and how much you want to make sure things go right with your projects, if you didn't have this pain come up, would it have been as easy for you, or as urgent and necessary, to find a buyer to pass off this thing? Or would you have continued to, like, kind of stay in it a little bit longer than you would have needed to? And so this kind of really pushed you to be like, I physically can't do this anymore. I need to shift into what it is I now know I'm needing to do.
Exactly. Thank you for picking up on that insight. It's exactly how I'm feeling.
And I'd like to add to that, maybe, especially since Justin, you mentioned like the right arm masculine and the left arm feminine. It's like that masculine tendency to be the captain of the ship and to make things happen is was taking its toll, and it was holding you back from what the left can receive. So softening into that, because there's passion projects you like to do, but the right arm that is very structured and determined was actually getting in the way of what the left arm wants to do. And yeah, it's forced you to tend to it, and then the tending to it is actually to refrain yourself from using it, right? And I think it's that the universe putting the brakes on you a little bit, so that you can actually take the time to reevaluate what's really important to you. Because sometimes, like, I just talked to a lady earlier today. She was 86, and she's talking about how she doesn't have many years left, and she's reevaluating what she wants to do with this remaining time. And I'm like, that's sometimes what it takes, is the death of something, or the near death of something, for us to realize, oh, time is precious, and what am I going to do with these remaining years? So that's my spin on it.
Now you also picked up on that urgency that I feel now that I'm 61, like I do want to feel like I'm doing my passion project for good, like every day. Yeah, but I welcome more input. This is really great.
Oh, you need to unmute yourself, Tara Lee.
Okay. Third time's a charm. I really, I'm happy that you're welcoming it, because it's really lovely to hear the reframe playing in this way. And the body talks. And the first thing that really came up to mind is more of a question for you, is what are you holding on to, and what are you afraid to let go of? Because there's some benefit to that thing that you're holding on to so much with that hand. It was serving, 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 and now it's done its service. And so if there's a thought in there, and the guys did a wonderful job of all the other thoughts.
Yeah, for sure, Tara Lee. It's that safety, right? You have a business for 26 years. That's a very regular paycheck for a very long time. And to let go of that is like, it's hard.
Yeah,
Especially when I'm
absolutely.
trying to bridge the gap between both, careers. So it's been tough. I haven't been able to work. So it's been very challenging. And that whole feminine masculine thing totally resonates because it's been over a year and a half now where I've been really focusing on how can I welcome in more feminine, divine feminine characteristics, because I've been masculine for too long. And so I feel like, yeah, it's time now to shed myself of the masculinity, literally been stopped in its tracks anyway, and embrace the feminine more and asking for help and going slow and receiving and all of those feminine qualities that I've been neglecting, let's say.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's cool that you picked up on that, Penny. That was right on. Thank you guys so much.
I think I just want to say one thing. I think it's really interesting that we as women are having issues on the right side of our bodies. Because I had the eye issue on my right eye, and that I ended up having surgery in my right eye. I also broke my right wrist, years ago, and it's just like, yeah, that's like, are we as women being told to? Are our bodies saying enough already with the overdoing it and the overworking and the trying to be, you know, um, so uh, in control and in charge and so on, and just allow, and having to go through that stage of pause now, because I went through a year of pause with my eyes, and it sounds like you're going through the pause right now, and exploring what is it like to receive and to get from, to have the left side of our bodies more, yeah, and as part of us. But it was just interesting. I just thought, because I also experienced the right side issue, and you're experiencing the right side issue, and I'm thinking, I don't know if any other women are experiencing that, who are overworking and overdoing it. Is anybody else, as a woman here, experiencing any aches or pains or anything on the right side? It's just a thought. I don't know.
It's very archetypal that that's happening to.
Yeah, I just wonder if we did a study, whether we would find that or not.
Well, I work with a lot of people's body expressions in the work that I do, and there seems to be sort of two patterns of the masculine being put down, because that fear of not being safe is so important, and we're not willing to let that go. But then there's also, I'm more of on the left side, and there's like a really big group of women who have on the left side, but it's the same thing. And it's the fear of receiving, the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of putting faith and trust. It's the same wounding patterning, essentially, or imprint, I prefer to call it. But it's just, how are we overcompensating for it? In what way? And so it's so fascinating to me to see there's these two very clear lanes of, we're both trying to solve the same imbalance by overcompensating, and it's all on one side of the body for these two different sort of personality types, or however we show up in the world. So love that thought and awareness.
Yeah, I do think there is a general, whether it's expressing itself that way. It's like an interesting question, Irina, because I mean, what we can see in this world is almost an inversion of the masculine and feminine expression, where, like, I mean, the media pumps out the idea of like the boss woman, right? And then it's like kind of shifting men to be more of like, in the nurture. And this is actually how I grew up. My mom was kind of the one who was like in charge of the family decisions, even though my dad was the handy guy. He kind of took the back seat. And I was the oldest, and I was looking after my younger siblings and stuff like that. And what I've had to like walk through as an adult is this, like, strangely enough, is this like feminine expression that had come through in this nurture. And the more that I've it wasn't until like this relationship with Katrina where we were supported to kind of look at these things, and she equally had this more masculine expression coming through. And this was a general trend in my relationships as well, and they weren't usually very happy when leaning into that. And the more that I was supported to kind of lean into the like stepping back from the nurturing and going more into like the hunting and the providing and uh, the giving, not like giving as in like the nurturing, but in the giving, the providing for the feminine to receive, kind of leaned into this equation that I was made to consider, that women, or sorry, the feminine needs to receive in order to give, and the masculine needs to give in order to receive. And the more that we've stepped into that, the happier Katrina and I have both become, and the more effective things have been in our dynamic than in any previous experience either of us have had. And that's why I emphasize feminine, masculine versus man, woman, because that can take shape in different ways.
I find it fascinating how we're able to extract so much story and wisdom from an arm that has been, damaged, and the power of story, how we reframe it, is helping us see things from these new perspectives. So it's really cool hearing everybody's input and perception on what could just be passed off in a material sense of, it's an arm, it needs to heal, that's it. But we're actually trying to pull meaning out of it, which is, I think, what the human spirit essentially does to all things, is we give these experiences meaning.
I'd like to add something to that. So I was saying how, in my case, and I think it applies to everybody, that our challenges cycle throughout our life, and we learn from them. They change, the details change, but the similar patterns. And I think that we have a tendency to think of what we're doing. Like if something happens, we say, well, what did I do wrong, or what can I do better? But all the challenges and all our corrections that we make, those are just mirrors. Those are mirrors to reflect back to us of who we are, or how do we feel, or what does that tell us about ourselves? So all the challenges and all the ways we find to correct them or alter them are basically mirrors telling us, helping us define our own sense of self. So the issues take on a great deal of importance because sometimes they're very challenging and financially or threatening and whatnot. But the real takeaway is, what did they tell us about ourselves? What can we learn about ourselves? Not so much how do we correct it. Correcting it's going to happen one way or another, but it's what we learn about ourselves that's most important. That's my outlook on all of these things.
Yeah, well said. That's 100%. I concur. Who else wants to share their reframe? Or Tara Lee, you want to say something?
I would love to add a little tidbit. It is not fully connected to this, but it's definitely a part of it. It's from the epic classes that I've been doing in Hawaii, and I love the concept of the balancing the feminine and the masculine energies within ourselves and within our communities. That's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and hearing it in this way I've heard of the masculine energy being containment, creating the frame. But the work that we do in the body work, I'm always creating space, and I never heard it like this till now. But apparently, the feminine is creating the space, the masculine is creating the containment. So the feminine is from the inside out, and the masculine is from the outside in. And I just thought that that was just such a powerful framing of those energies and how they kind of weave together, and the understanding of the like what is creating space. I first I'm thinking about like decorating in the home, right? But then also creating space is like the Kali energy of emptying, right? Clean it out. And then it's the creative energy of filling the space. So anyway, those were some of my fragments, that in case that is interesting or plants a seed for anybody there.
Well, that reminds me of the Shakti and Shiva energy. So connected to Shakti and Shiva. So Shiva being the masculine energy, which who is the holder of space. So the container, the holder of space is Shiva. And then Shakti is the creative energy that dances within that space. So I like that analogy, because to me it feels very like Shiva's just kind of holding the space, as that's very masculine to do that, to protect, to support. And then Shakti's the creative energy, the Kundalini that rises within it. So, and if the masculine energy can hold the space, and doesn't mean it's man holding the space for the woman, but it's your masculine energy holds that space, holds that container, so that your feminine energy can rise and dance and be creative.
Love, love, love that. Thank you.
All right, anybody else want to reframe?
I'll go ahead and reframe my or share the reframe that occurred, follow up to my story. So once I called Katrina, I was telling her that nobody's hearing me out, and I don't know if you can hear her blowing her nose, but yeah, nobody's hearing me out. And this last guy, when I clearly I was upset, and this guy just like yelled at me. This was what I was saying to Katrina, and she had me consider the point of like, where was I not taking responsibility? Because it sounded a lot like I was blaming these people. And like, if we were to kind of take a breath, ground, and which is why I'm really glad that I called her, because had I called any of my managers, they would have just been like, oh, don't worry about it, don't take it personally, just like move on to the next door. But I would have just carried this resonance with me, this frustration and this anger, when really the anger, what I was able to kind of really look at was I was upset with myself for not being able to come up with either a better response to the disinterest, or I was kind of like upset with myself for allowing, like, because I could kind of what she was saying before about like judging the judgment, where I was kind of judging people as like not being considerate enough to even just hear me out. And then I would catch myself judging that, and then I would kind of judge myself for judging that, like creating this cycle. So yeah, she had me kind of voice out some self-forgiveness to which is really cool, that like once you start even on a superficial level, just to get into the flow of it, very quickly other layers start to come to the surface. And I saw that that's where I realized, like, I'm upset that I'm spending a lot of this mental energy coming up with a story to connect with this person on, when I don't even know if I'm going to be able to connect with it. And it wasn't just that I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, okay, I can talk about that. And then, so this is what I ended up doing, was realizing, instead of looking at a thing and then really like playing the story out in my mind as though I'm talking to this person, and like, this is what I'm going to say when they respond, I'll say this, and I would play out a whole play in my head. I realized, I'm like, okay, how can I like shorten that down so I'm not spending all this energy? Because the reality is it's not about what they are doing or not doing. It's about, where am I putting my energy and my attention? And how can I reclaim that? So I'm like, do I not trust myself to be creative enough to quip on a certain thing? So then I told myself, from this point on, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, once I identify that thing that I want to like have as the icebreaker, and if there's nothing physically, then I'm like, okay, what kind of joke about the weather or the day or whatever? Even if I have to repeat it at several doors, they don't know that I've said this 17 times. So how can I just simplify, so I'm not dispensing as much energy before I even know if I get to use it or not? And so I leaned into, I know I'm a creative person. I know I'm a chatty person. So I can trust myself to just identify that thing, that icebreaker, without having to go into a story about it, and just the let whatever come from that as a creative scenario that's happening live, instead of in my head, and then now I have to make it fit what was in my head. So now it's not an authentic connection. And so by being able to like rewind, take responsibility, reframe, now I was able to look at the self-trust of being able to be creative, which has led to a lot more free-flowing conversations and interactions. And interestingly enough, not 3 doors later, after that scenario, I talked to a man, his last name was Love, and he had a terrible experience with Bell, and like was never going to do anything again. And because I didn't go into that whole participation, whatever, I was just like, okay, well, like, what's your situation? Like, what was the issue? And I was more genuinely here. I was here with the person. And by the end of it, we saw that like this principle that he was holding on to, that was actually costing him quite a bit of money when we got down to the comparison. And at the end of it, I was like, look, man, like, Bell's just a machine. Like, we got to look after ourselves. And this is costing you almost like $150 a month not to do this. He's like, yeah, my wife doesn't really like my stubbornness. And the daughter had come out, and she was just like, Dad, just do it. And so it ended up being that week, the streak turned around from this 0 streak to that sale ended up being like 5 units, when my average had only been around like 2 or 3 at that point. And that week was my best week in that month. So the power of reframing and taking responsibility and trusting yourself in your creativity was really illustrated for me really strongly there. So thank you, Katrina, for that reframe for me.
Yeah, that's great. Great to hear. It's inspiring, especially because I'm still at that stage trying to change my story when it comes to sales and things. Getting there.
Yeah.
And Hugh, I think you might be last to go. Or you're still on mute if yeah.
Okay. I can hear me. I don't know. I don't have much more to say. I mean, in terms of reframing, I think things are going so well. I don't really have anything to reframe at the moment. But like I say, when I do, it's not so much the details. It's more, I think about the challenge of what have I learned from it, or what does that tell me about myself that I really needed to know. That's basically what it is all about. The details don't really matter that much anymore.
Yeah, I guess it is just about knowing ourselves. That was the big lesson when I was in this philosophy course, where that was the whole intention of it, was how do we know ourselves deeper, and the details of what happens are, yeah, seem less consequential than how we see ourselves and getting to better know ourselves. And so I guess yeah, to finish off then, um, what are we taking away from hearing these stories? Like, what did anything resonate? Like, what did anything change in the way we perceive things, or did, like, what kind of landed for us? What are we walking away with from hearing these stories, or even just expressing our stories? And maybe, and you don't have to answer this, Melissa, but I might encourage you to maybe chime in on, like, what was it like to hear everyone else share their stories? Did anything land for you?
Yes, but now that you're putting me on the spot, I can't think of what it is that I would say about it, but lots of things resonated and lots of things, but yeah.
I think a thread that was kind of running through everybody's story, and I don't know if we all noticed it or not, was this pause, this idea of a pause, retiring, slowing down, whether consciously or unconsciously, shifting, pivoting.
Yeah, I noticed that there were very similar stories, very similar threads running through all our stories, and I
Yeah.
found myself having, resonating with a lot what was being said.
The connections all connected
Yeah.
at some point, overlapped.
Mm-hmm.
What I thought was really interesting was the interaction that happened when Wendy, you invited other people to help reframe, and we got all these different perspectives. So it's almost neat to see like various um, triangulations that kind of like formulated a almost like a more coherent understanding.
And all organically. It was very beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely, I always love to see the pattern of how we all come together with a similar, completely different world and book that we're writing in our lives, but we're talking about the same thing. And I know definitely the slowing down is, like, for me, I forgot about that one. So I'm so glad you brought it back up, because it's been like the slow down to go fast is kind of like this, like, fire horse energy. And it's like, where am I placing my attention and my energy? And that whole, like, self-trust, self-worth thing that we're doing as we're getting challenged by these external circumstances, and then trusting in it didn't, okay, so that didn't turn out, but is that, reduce my worth? No. Can I trust myself? Heck yeah. Am I going to keep going? Heck yeah. But I'm going to I'm not going to spread myself out too thin. I'm going to focus my attention on where my heart's curiosity and excitement are, where I'm being pulled to. I really enjoyed that.
One of the things that hit home on a like physical level as an artist, being able to not create art, or not at least art without pain. Yeah, it just a whole new perspective on, if I'm going to be doing anything with my hands, I want to be doing my own thing. I want to be creating beautiful things. I don't want to be doing quote unquote functional, jobs, let's say.
Paint
So,
with your left hand.
yes, I have been actually, and I feel like I'm much more ambidextrous. That's definitely a plus that came out of this.
Yeah, when I broke my right hand, and I just started painting with my left hand. I was journaling with my left hand, like drawing, and some of my best work was done with my left hand
Mm. And
because it
just in the
the left
process,
side connects you to your to the right brain.
yes. And just in the process of having to write slower, you know, formulate thoughts longer, um, just take that time. But it took me a while to be able to let that go. You know, there's always pull, right, for me to be somewhere else other than taking care of myself. So that was an interesting shift. Still ongoing, I should say, not perfected.
It's so powerful, that awareness of, if I'm going to be using my hand, what do I want? That's like, that one really hit me. My mom said something years ago. It's like, if this is, you don't know it, what if this is your last meal or not? And are you the type of person who saves the best for last? Well, what if you choke on the first bite? What do you want your last bite to taste like? And I was like, oh my God, I got to stop saving the best for last.
You hear that, Hugh? You got to start eating the best stuff first because he eats the. You have a funny way of eating, so.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that tries to. I'm like, what is that last bite? But that really, that reframe is like, oh yeah, what if I don't get to that last bite? And yeah, no, I was gonna go into a story about how I used to eat Big Macs, but that's its own thing. I used to like eat it piece by piece, like as if I had five different sandwiches all wrapped in one. It was funny, mostly because I was a little kid and I couldn't physically fit the Big Mac in my mouth, so I was just top bun, put some fries in it, eat that.
Well, I try to put everything that's on my plate on the fork at the same time. So every fork, a mouthful has a little bit of everything from my plate, which is the total opposite of what Hugh does. He eats one thing at a time. So that, but if I was to um, go before I got to my last bite, I know I would have had everything on the plate from the first bite on. So there was a movie, I remember seeing a movie where she did that, the actress, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Barbara Streisand, and she would make sure she put a piece of everything on the plate. And I love to live life that way, with a little bit of some of everything every day, all the time, you know, just so you don't miss out.
Yeah, I love food and food is life, so all of these stories make sense. Um, well, yeah, we're a little bit past time and we've had a lot of really great shares and not totally sure how to end it off other than just thank you all for participating. And it's a bit of a larger turnout than I was expecting tonight, so thank you for that, for showing up. And um, yeah, and I'm just liking this exploration of story and how it's impacting all of us, whether we're sharing it, whether we're hearing it. And I guess too, since, this will be available for others to listen to at some point and watch, I'm hoping that the audience who witnesses this gets something from this, to realize that, we all have our moments of pause in life, these challenges, these things that happen, but we always seem to turn it around. And that mindset, that reframe is really, to me, it feels like a very powerful tool to help me persevere through the most challenging times, and reminding myself that I've overcome challenges and that I'll overcome the ones that are ahead of me. And yeah, just building that resilience, and that, the book isn't over until it's over. And so we just keep writing. And And yeah, that's it until the next pulse, which will be the first Wednesday of July. And I'm sure I'll come up with something. So until next time, I guess, does anybody have any last things they want to share before we go?
I'd like to say thank you, and a hui ho, which means until we meet again. And I can't believe the next one is in July. Like, why July? How did we get here?
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's so great to see you all.
Bye.
Good night.
Enjoy your evening.
Bye.